When my divorced friend said all girls are the same and he could seduce my wife in 2 weeks. I laughed. But to have faith in her, to have faith in us, I made a bet. I guess. As it turned out, it was the biggest decision of my life. I swept the floors. I was a powerful businessman. My friend and I played our parts flawlessly. This is the story of how I caught my wife cheating, about how I used my craft to burn the illusion of my marriage, and how I walked away with everything, except for who I used to be. I had all started in Chicago. Windy city, jazz in the air, bitter cold cutting through your coat even in late March. I was there for a shoot. It paid the bills and kept me in the industry while I worked on landing more serious roles. My buddy Adam tagged along. We've been close for years. Went to the same drama school, shared the same crappy apartment in LA. One night after the shoot wrapped, we sat at the bar nursing overpriced scotch and trying to outrant each other about the state of the business. Then, somewhere between our third and fourth round, the conversation took a turn. Adam leaned back, stretched his arms, and said it casually, like he wasn't about to ruin me. You know, Ryan, he said, eyeing his glass, every woman cheats. Sooner or later. I snorted. That's rich coming from you. He grinned. I've seen too much, man. My ex? Cheated with her yoga instructor. The one before that? Her coworker. People are wired for it. All it takes is the right mix of charm, timing, and vulnerability. I shook my head. Not Jessica. Come on, he said. You think she's some unicorn? She's loyal. Honest. Yeah, we fight sometimes, but nothing out of the ordinary. Adam chuckled and flagged the bartender for another. You think she's never thought about it? Never been tempted? She's not like that. She's human. I remember staring at the back of the bottle in front of me. Not out of doubt, just thinking how absurd it all sounded. Jessica wasn't perfect. God, she could be sharp with her words, had this way of twisting things in a fight that made you question your own memory. But cheating? That just wasn't in her. She insisted we have a prenup, you know? I told him. Even added a clause about fidelity. Said if either of us strayed, the other one walks away with everything. Who does that if they're planning to mess around? He raised an eyebrow. Smart woman. No, she just believes in consequences. He leaned forward, eyes glinting with that cocky, dangerous spark I'd seen 1,000 times on stage. $5,000 says I can prove you wrong. 2 weeks. That's all I need. I stared at him like he'd just spoken another language. You're out of your mind. I'm serious. 2 weeks. Let me talk to her. Charm her a bit. See what happens. Jessica never crossed paths with Adam, and they didn't know each other. When I was constantly hanging out with him, Jessica wasn't even around yet. She's my wife. He raised his hands. Not gonna cross a line unless she chooses to. You want to believe she's rock solid? Let me try. You'll come out of it $5,000 richer and more confident in your marriage. I sat there, the ice in my drink melting, the idea crawling into my brain like a vine. Was I really considering this? You're talking about playing with fire, I said quietly. Or lighting up the truth, he replied. I laughed, more to release the tension than because I thought it was funny. What are the rules? No physical stuff. Just conversation. Flirtation. A test. If she's loyal like you say, she'll shut it down. You win. If she doesn't, I lose $5,000. Exactly. There was something about the way he said it. Like he already knew the outcome. I looked down at my wedding band. 6 years. A house we'd built together, one room at a time. A shared mortgage we'd finally paid off. A life that felt solid, even if it wasn't always smooth. And here I was, sitting in a bar with my best friend, about to bet on my wife's integrity like it was a horse race. It wasn't just ego. It wasn't just curiosity either. It was something else, something I didn't want to admit to myself. Maybe a crack I'd ignored in the glass for too long. Fine, I said, reaching out my hand. 2 weeks. $5,000. He grinned and shook it. And just like that, the stage was set. I didn't know it then, but I just opened the first curtain on the last act of my marriage. About 4 weeks after the bet in Chicago, I told Jessica I had another out-of-town job, this time a 2-week shoot in Atlanta. She barely looked up from her phone when I mentioned it. Just asked when I'd be leaving, and if I could fill the tank on her car before I went. That was Jessica. Always had a list. In reality, there was no shoot. No Atlanta. I'd rented a small one-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from Westwood Mall, close enough to walk, far enough to keep suspicion low. It was a bare-bones place, barely furnished, smelled faintly of old ramen and new paint. I didn't care. I wasn't there to relax. I was there to watch. Jessica worked at a men's clothing store called. She'd been there for a couple years. Knew her fabrics, her fits, her sales pitch. I'd seen her sell a guy a $200 blazer he didn't need just because she smiled at the right moment and told him it brought out his shoulders. That kind of charm can be dangerous in the wrong hands. The plan was simple. Adam would show up at the store and try to talk to her. That's it. No pressure. Just conversation. If she was as committed as I believed, she'd shut it down quick. And I'd go home with peace of mind. That first morning, I woke up at 5:30. Couldn't sleep anyway. I shaved my arms and hands to make the makeup stick better. Layered on the prosthetics, a little sag to the cheeks, darker lines around the eyes, a prosthetic nose to change the shape just enough. I had a full headpiece that made my hair look thin, graying, and patchy. Eyebrows trimmed down, contacts to cloud my pupils. All this took me less than an hour. I looked like a tired 72-year-old man who spent most of his life on a mop. The janitor uniform was easy. Bought one online with a fake patch that said Earl. The name felt right. I got to the mall just before it opened. I knew from prior visits there were maintenance closets spread around the place. Found one near the loading dock, already stocked with a broom, a dustpan, and some basic supplies. I wheeled out the bucket like I knew what I was doing. Nobody questioned me. Funny how a pair of thick glasses and a quiet posture can make you invisible. I started near the food court, slowly working my way toward her store. I'd sweep a little, then pause to catch my breath like someone with bad knees. I kept my head down, but my eyes tracked every movement around the storefront. There she was, Jessica, behind the register, fixing a display of belts. She wore her usual look for work, fitted black slacks, white blouse, hair in a clean bun. Efficient, professional, with just enough softness to draw attention. Customers started filtering in. She greeted each one the same. Smile, quick glance up and down, a friendly, practiced tone. Then around noon, Adam walked in. He looked different, cleaner than usual, wearing one of those designer jackets he only pulls out when he wants to look like he makes more money than he does. Hairstyled, no stubble, polished shoes. He looked like a guy who just walked out of a watch commercial. I moved closer, just within earshot, pretending to scrub a smudge on the tile. "Hi there," he said to her. His voice was smooth, like he'd turned the charm dial to medium, not too strong, just enough to register. Jessica looked up, smiled. "Welcome. Looking for anything in particular?" "Jeans," he said. "Something that doesn't make me look like I'm stuck in the wrong decade." She laughed lightly. "Let's see what we've got." She led him to a rack near the back. They talked. I couldn't hear every word, but she was definitely in work mode. Smiling, suggesting, folding, hanging things back. He tried on 2 pairs, picked one, paid cash. As he left, he said something that made her smile again. Not a flirty smile, but one of those polite work smiles. She waved him off, then went back to rearranging the table. I stayed another hour, just sweeping and watching. Nothing else happened. Back at the apartment that night, I peeled off the makeup, soaked my face, and stared at myself in the mirror. My skin itched. My eyes were bloodshot. But inside, I felt calm. Day 1 was done. Harmless. I wanted to believe it'd stay that way. The next morning, I got up earlier than usual, mostly out of nerves. I'd barely slept. I spent the whole night thinking about Jessica and Adam's conversation from the day before, going over every smile, every glance, every word I'd caught while hiding behind a mop and playing the part of a ghost. I decided I couldn't go back as the janitor. That disguise was too close to the floor, too dependent on staying unnoticed. I needed to get closer. I needed to see her face up close, hear her voice clearly. So, I went a different route. I put on a thick brown beard, not the comical kind, but one I'd spent 3 hours crafting to blend seamlessly into my skin. A pair of wireframe glasses, a navy blue beanie, a long-sleeved Henley under a flannel, and a slightly oversized winter coat. The beard changed the shape of my jaw, the glasses hid my eyes, and the beanie lowered my hairline. With a little shadowing around the cheeks and a softened voice, even my own brother wouldn't have known it was me. I walked into the mall with a tote bag slung over my shoulder like I was a tourist or a guy who'd just moved into the city. Kept my posture upright, a little aimless. I strolled around the second floor until I checked my watch. 11:50 a.m. Adam was supposed to show up at noon. Jessica was working the register when I walked in. She didn't glance at me more than once. Not a flicker of recognition. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I went straight for the sweater section, pretending to browse. She was helping a guy pick out shirts. I kept myself turned just enough to watch her from the mirror behind the display. Right on schedule, Adam walked in. Today he was dressed in a fitted charcoal blazer, clean white t-shirt underneath, black jeans. Hair styled back, face clean-shaven. In his hands, a bouquet of white lilies wrapped in brown paper. He didn't hesitate, walked straight up to her and said, "I couldn't stop thinking about how helpful you were yesterday. Thought you deserved something that smelled better than cologne samples." Jessica froze for a second, then laughed. The sound hit me like a slap. "Oh wow," she said, smiling. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," Adam replied. "But I wanted to." She reached out, hesitated like she didn't know if she should accept, then took them. I watched her hold them, bring them to her nose, tilt her head slightly as if trying to hide her expression. But I saw it. The smile. The kind she used to give me when we were still dating. "You're gonna get me in trouble with these," she said, half joking. "Only if flowers are a crime," he said, then glanced around. "You get a lunch break soon?" "About 15 minutes. Let me take you to supper at the restaurant." She hesitated, looked down at the bouquet. "I probably shouldn't." Adam leaned in slightly. "It's just supper." She looked at the flowers again, then up at him. "Okay, just supper." He smiled and nodded. As he left, he walked right past me. Didn't even glance. When I got back to the apartment, I called her on my burner phone, using the same old man voice I'd practiced back in my theater days. She picked up after 2 rings. "Hey babe," I said, soft and casual. "How's work?" "Busy," she said. I could hear the airiness in her tone, the way she always sounded when she was trying to talk while doing something else. "You heading home after?" "No. I told you, remember? I'm going to see Lauren. Her kid has the flu, and she needs help picking up groceries." I paused for a second, just enough to leave a little silence. "Right. Lauren." She mumbled something about soup, then said she'd call me later and hung up. That was the first time I felt something snap inside me. Not break, snap. Like a switch flipped. That tight little feeling in your gut when the truth finally outruns your hope. At 6:10 p.m., I stood across the street from the steakhouse Adam had picked. I wore a different disguise, tweaked Earl, this time with a padded belly and balding scalp. I leaned against a bus stop post, watching the doors. They walked out at 7:47 p.m. Jessica had her coat draped over her shoulders. She was laughing, head tilted back, hand on Adam's forearm. He said something, and she hit his chest playfully, like they'd known each other for years. They didn't hold hands. He didn't try anything bold, but he walked her all the way home. I followed from the opposite side of the street, close enough to hear the occasional burst of laughter, close enough to see her smile the way she used to when things were good between us. When they reached our house, she stopped at the front steps, said something. He nodded. They hugged, brief but close. She went inside alone. He walked back toward the train station. I stood in the dark across the street for another 20 minutes, just watching the living room light flick on. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering how I ended up watching my own life unravel from a stranger's eyes. The days started to blur after that dinner. Jessica didn't change on the surface, same job, same schedule. But underneath it all, something shifted. I knew it. I felt it. I didn't need her to say anything. Her actions said plenty. On Wednesday, she told me over the phone that she was heading to the gym after work. I watched her leave at 6:05 p.m., wearing her work outfit under a coat, no gym bag, no change of shoes. She didn't go to the gym. She met Adam in front of the fountain at the park across the street, where he handed her a tall iced coffee. They sat on a bench for an hour and talked. He made her laugh, one of those full-body laughs where she leaned into him and put her hand on his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. Thursday, she was helping Lauren move. I followed her as she caught the green line toward downtown and met Adam again. This time, it was a matinee at the cinema, the kind of theater with plush seats and overpriced tickets. I sat 3 rows behind them, wearing a brown zip-up hoodie, thick glasses, and a bandage wrapped around my left wrist like I'd just been through a workplace accident. She didn't see me. I watched her rest her head against Adam's shoulder during the previews. She always used to do that to me when the lights dimmed. They left before the credits rolled. I snapped a photo of them walking out the doors, him holding the exit open like a gentleman. She smiled up at him, looking younger than I'd seen her in months. Friday was spa day. She even told me she'd gotten a coupon through a coworker. Sent me a text with a fake appointment reminder that looked legit, clever. She'd gone through the trouble of crafting a full story, even included a screenshot of the place. Meanwhile, I was across the street from cafe, watching her sip cappuccino with Adam at a corner table. He brought her a flower that time, a yellow rose, and she tucked it behind her ear, then posed for a picture he took with his phone. Each time she lied, I noted it in a little leather-bound journal I kept in my coat. Time, location, excuse. I matched her words with photos, call logs, GPS pins. The more I recorded, the more I felt like someone else. Not Ryan the husband, Ryan the observer, a ghost with a lens. By Saturday, the 5th day, I wasn't even shocked anymore. Just numb. I sat on a bench at Heritage Plaza, chewing on a stale donut, watching them feed the pigeons like they were an old couple who'd made it through the war. I had a camera in my coat pocket. Every few minutes, I'd raise it, click, and lower it again. Adam met me that evening behind the strip mall where we used to rehearse together in college. She's into it, he said quietly. Not just flattered. She's leaning in. I nodded, didn't speak. I think she's falling for me, man. I mean, obviously I'm playing a part, but she's starting to believe in it. She ever talk about me? I asked, voice flat. Not much, he said after a pause. She says you've been distant lately, that she's trying to give you space. That stung more than it should have. Keep going, I told him. You sure? I need the truth. Not pieces. Not guesses. Proof. He looked at me hard. You're sure this isn't gonna break you? I didn't answer right away. Just stared at the cracks in the pavement, the cigarette butts mashed into oil-stained concrete. Then I looked up. Just get me the truth, I said. That night, I went back to the apartment, pulled up every photo I'd taken and laid them out on the kitchen counter. Spread them like tarot cards. Jessica smiling. Jessica holding his arm. Jessica sipping wine, brushing hair from her face. Her eyes weren't empty in any of them. They were full, curious, engaged. Not once did she look over her shoulder. Not once did she look like she was holding back. I stood there for a long time, just staring at those still frames of the woman I married. I tried to remember the last time she looked at me the way she looked at him. I couldn't. That was when I knew. I'd already lost something. Whether it was her or just the idea of her, I wasn't sure yet. But either way, I wasn't walking away untouched. And I wasn't walking away without answers. After 5 days of watching Jessica fall deeper into Adam's web, I realized I couldn't just keep standing in the background like a ghost. I needed something real. Something that couldn't be explained away or spun into a misunderstanding. I needed proof. Solid, no denial kind of proof. The kind you can hold up in court and in your own heart when you need to remind yourself you weren't crazy. That's when I ordered the pen. It wasn't just any pen. It was a high-definition, motion-activated camera disguised as a sleek metal writing tool. Looked fancy enough to pass for something a guy like Adam would carry in his jacket pocket. The lens was tiny, right at the top of the clip, almost impossible to notice unless you were trying. It recorded straight to a hidden flash drive inside. No blinking lights, no noise. Clean and discreet. We tested it in my apartment, me pacing around in front of it, him adjusting the angle and height on the nightstand. The picture came through clear, crisp, no static. It worked. Once the gear was ready, I started working on the second part of the plan, people. Brent and Marcus were 2 guys I trusted more than most. We met years ago during a traveling production of Julius Caesar, and we'd kept in touch ever since. They were the kind of guys who could switch from comedy to drama in the same breath and make it believable. Brent had a face that looked like it belonged on a detective drama, and Marcus had a voice that could freeze a room. When I called them, explained what I needed, there wasn't a second of hesitation. You need us to play cops? Brent asked. Not just play, I said. I needed to feel real. Real how? Real enough to scare her. Real enough that if there's a line, she won't cross it because she thinks she's about to get cuffed. They both laughed, but there wasn't any mockery in it. We got the uniforms from a prop house downtown. Tactical vests, belts, radio clips, utility pants, the works. They looked legit. They practiced the takedown routine 3 times in my living room until it was smooth. With the team assembled, the last step was setting the stage. Adam invited Jessica to drinks at a high-end hotel downtown. Adam told her they could just meet for a drink, something casual. He didn't pressure her, just played the part of the gentleman who wanted one more evening together. She agreed. That night, I got into costume for the last time. This one wasn't scruffy or sad. I put on a tailored navy suit with a subtle pinstripe, a crisp white shirt, a red tie, and a Rolex I borrowed from Brent that looked like it belonged on a hedge fund manager. Hair slicked back, beard trimmed. The look was sharp, clean, and confident. I was no longer the janitor or the lonely customer or the faceless shadow. I was power, money, someone who wouldn't be questioned. I arrived at the hotel an hour early and sat at the bar, sipping ginger ale with lime, chatting with the young woman at the front desk like I was in town for a meeting. Told her I flew in from New York, had a business brunch the next morning. I kept my voice calm, practiced. She nodded along, offered to call me a car if I needed it later. I said I'd let her know. At 8:07 p.m., Adam and Jessica arrived. She looked polished, like someone on the edge of something she wasn't ready to admit to. I watched them from across the bar, my back to the mirrored wall. She didn't notice me. Her eyes were locked on Adam. He pulled out her chair, sat across from her, and ordered them both a drink. They talked. I couldn't hear them over the soft jazz and clinking glasses, but I saw the way she leaned in, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear and smiled when he touched her hand. The pin was already in place, nestled in the breast pocket of Adam's blazer, angled slightly toward the couch where he planned to sit beside her later upstairs. The recording had started the moment he slipped it on before leaving his place. Everything from here on out would be captured, time-stamped, stored. Brent and Marcus were already waiting in the hallway outside the hotel room. I had a spare key, for a small fee and some beautiful acting as an oligarch. It was provided to me at reception. Everything was set. Then I checked my watch. Time to begin. The bust. Adam and Jessica headed upstairs. Room 715, where the final act of our play was destined to end. Adam had messaged me earlier, right after they finished their second drink in the lounge. We're heading up. She's not resisting. That alone hit harder than I expected. I already knew where it was going, but reading it made it real in a different way. Like seeing your name in a headline you didn't want. About 30 minutes passed. Every minute stretched. Adam and Jessica got down to business. He lay down in bed with her, got into position so that the camera on the handle could capture all the interesting shots, and then, after 3 minutes, he suddenly stood up and said he needed to use the restroom. Then it came. Now. That's all he wrote. I stood up, adjusted my tie in the mirror across from the elevator, and walked toward the front desk like I was headed to my room. Nobody stopped me. I took the elevator down to the service corridor, where Brent and Marcus were waiting in full costume. Marcus had his badge tucked into the front of his vest. Brent had the zip cuffs ready. Their props were on point. Fake pistols that looked like the real thing under dim light. Police radio static playing softly from a speaker clipped to Marcus' shoulder. Even I jumped when I saw them. They looked ready to storm a cartel warehouse. You sure she's in the room? Marcus asked. She's in, I said. Text just came through. We made our way up the staff stairwell, bypassing the elevator to avoid running into any guests. Brent kept pace, calm as ever. Marcus's jaw was tight. We didn't speak. I handed them the spare key card I'd been given earlier. Go loud, I said. Like it's the real thing. They nodded. I stayed one floor down, standing by the vending machines and listening for the signal. Then it happened. A thunder of boots in the hallway. Then a slam. Brent's voice bellowing down the corridor. Police. Hands where we can see him. A scream, Jessica's. High-pitched, panicked. Not the fake kind. The sound of a person realizing their world just changed. Then I heard Marcus. Don't move. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. I stayed in place, leaning against the soda machine, heart racing, hands shaking. It was happening. After everything, after the makeup, the disguises, the shadows, this was real now. Upstairs, the scene was unfolding exactly as rehearsed. Jessica had just finished laughing at one of Adam's jokes when Brent kicked in the door. Adam had timed it perfectly. His coat was off and hanging nearby, and the pen camera was still capturing the entire room from the dresser. Jessica jumped up from the couch, hands in the air, eyes wide with confusion. What's going on? She cried. Marcus was the first to speak. We received a tip about narcotics being exchanged in this room. What? No. What are you talking about? Brent didn't answer. He grabbed Adam, spun him around, and started shouting about resisting arrest. Adam, bless him, acted the part like he'd been doing this his whole life. I don't know what you're talking about, he yelled as Brent patted him down. From Adam's coat pocket, Marcus pulled out a sandwich-sized plastic bag full of white powder, flour, of course. Got it, Marcus shouted, holding it up like a trophy. Jessica stared at the bag. Her mouth dropped open. "That's not mine," she screamed. "I don't know him like that. We just came here for drinks." Brent twisted Adam's arms behind his back, clicking the cuffs tight. "You're going down for this, pal. Drug distribution, intent to sell, and dragging civilians into it? You messed up." "I didn't do anything." Jessica sobbed. "Please, wait. Don't take me. I didn't know." "We'll need your statement," Marcus barked. "Sit tight. Don't move." Then, just like that, they hauled Adam out. No explanation. No time to process. Just two strangers in black dragging a man she thought she knew out of a hotel room, leaving her standing there in heels and confusion. I waited until I heard the stairwell door open and slam shut. Brent and Marcus rushed past me with Adam between them, cuffed hands in front now. As soon as we hit the back parking lot, they burst into laughter. "Man," Brent panted, "she was white as a ghost." Adam, still catching his breath, looked at me. "You got what you need?" I nodded. "The whole thing. From the minute she stepped inside." "She's still up there, crying," Marcus added. "Didn't even try to leave the room." "Good," I said. "Let her sit with it." I handed Brent a bundle of 20s, their share of the job. We didn't speak much after that. Just backslaps and nods. They peeled off in opposite directions, Adam hitching a ride with Marcus. I walked back around to the front of the hotel, loosened my tie, and ordered a car. Upstairs, in that room, Jessica was probably still pacing, heart pounding, makeup streaked, trying to make sense of the past hour. But she'd never make full sense of it. That was the point. I was up before the sun the next morning. At 8:45 sharp, I was in my lawyer's office. Andrew Briggs, mid-50s, gray hair, soft-spoken, but with a quiet, surgical way of getting things done. He was the one who helped us draft the prenup before we got married. Funny how things come full circle. I sat down across from him and pulled out a folder thick with photos. A USB drive. A printed timeline with dates, locations, and times. Everything I'd gathered. I set it on the table and said, "I'm filing." He blinked. "Jessica." I nodded. He didn't ask questions right away. Just opened the folder and flipped through the photos. Jessica at the cafe, in the park, entering the hotel, sitting close to Adam. Then he plugged in the USB and scanned through clips from the pin camera. He stopped on a freeze frame of her sitting on the edge of the hotel couch, holding a wine glass, looking nervous but excited. Her hand resting on Adam's knee. "This is," he started, then trailed off. "You're absolutely sure?" "I'm beyond sure." He nodded slowly. "And the prenup is still active?" "Unchanged. Still got the infidelity clause." He didn't smile, but there was a shift in his expression, a flicker of understanding. He'd seen this before. Not the showmanship, maybe, but the same tired story. Just with fewer costumes. "I'll get the ball rolling," he said. "Give me a few days." From his office, I went straight to the house. Jessica had left for work already. I knew her schedule down to the minute. She'd clock in at by 10 a.m. sharp. I had at least 6 hours before she got home. I parked around the corner and came in through the side gate. For a moment, I just stood in the kitchen and took it all in. The life we'd built. Or at least the set we'd decorated. I didn't waste time. I packed fast. Took only what I needed. My clothes, laptop, passport, personal papers. Then I pulled the front door shut and locked it. On the drive back to the apartment, I stopped at my phone carrier and changed my number. New SIM, new voicemail. No more, "Hey, it's Ryan. Leave a message." Just silence. Next stop, my agent. I told her I was going off-grid for a few months, and if anyone asked, Jessica included, I was overseas, working on a film project in Europe. She didn't pry. Just said she'd pass the message along and wished me luck. For the next few days, I didn't stick my head out of my rented hideout. Didn't leave the apartment except for groceries and air. I watched the video footage one more time, just to make sure I hadn't imagined any of it. I hadn't. If anything, it felt worse the second time through. She wasn't just being tempted. She was leaning in. By Thursday, the divorce papers were ready. I picked them up from Andrew's office, went home, slid them into a manila envelope, and wrote her name in block letters across the front. She thought I was still on a business trip, working away, unaware of anything. The next morning, I waited until she left for work again. Then I drove back to the house, parked in the same spot, and let myself in. The kitchen was cleaner this time. Maybe she was expecting me back. Maybe she'd sensed something off. I didn't leave a note. Just set the envelope on the table where we used to eat breakfast together and walked out the door. I didn't know how she'd react when she found it. If she'd cry, deny, apologize, or rage. I didn't plan for any of that. I didn't care. I wasn't looking for a response. I just wanted it to be over. That night, I went out for the first time since this started. Just a small bar a few blocks from the apartment. Sat at the counter. Ordered a burger and a beer. Watched a game I didn't care about. Nobody knew me. Nobody cared. It felt good. Empty, but good. Like something broken finally sitting still. 70 days passed. Not a word. After dropping the divorce papers off, I didn't go back to the house. I didn't call. I didn't respond to messages. I just disappeared into the quiet. The apartment became my bunker. The first few days after the papers hit the table, she called my old number over and over. I saw the previews pop up on my laptop when I opened my email. Ryan, please talk to me. What is this? Why are you doing this? Then, radio silence. For weeks. But I kept tabs. Once a week, I'd walk past her store, disguised like I'd been from the start. Nothing fancy, just a hoodie, hat, big sunglasses, a different jacket each time. Enough to blend in. Enough to watch without being seen. She looked dimmed. That's the word that kept coming to me. Hollow in the eyes. Like a light had gone out and she hadn't figured out how to relight it. Her hair wasn't done the same. She stopped wearing that shade of lipstick she used to put on when she wanted to be noticed. Even the way she moved changed. Slower. Heavier. I didn't feel satisfaction seeing her like that. No smugness. Just a quiet ache. Like watching a building you helped design start to crack. She tried calling my work next. The receptionist told her I was overseas, filming. Just like I asked. At some point, she gave up. The court date arrived on a rainy Thursday. I remember that clearly. The sky was the same dull gray it had been the day she lied to me on the phone. I got there early. Sat in the hallway in a navy suit, reading over the binder my lawyer prepared, photos, timestamped footage, call logs, copies of the prenup. All of it lined up, neat as dominoes. She walked in 5 minutes before the hearing. Jessica looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her blouse was wrinkled, hair pulled back like she hadn't really looked in the mirror. She wasn't wearing a ring. When she saw me, she froze in the doorway. Then she walked over, slow, like her legs didn't want to carry her. Ryan, she started. Please. Just talk to me. I didn't say anything. She reached out, tried to take my hand. I stepped back. Ryan, why? She said, voice cracking. What did I do? You'll find out, I said, and turned away. She didn't bring a lawyer. Thought maybe I'd forgive her, or maybe that the judge would see her tears and take pity. That was a mistake. The judge was a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes, no patience for drama. My lawyer laid everything out. The photos. The video from the pen. The footage from the hotel security cam showing her and Adam walking in together. Jessica didn't argue. She didn't say much at all. Just kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, glancing at me like she was trying to find someone who wasn't there anymore. The judge flipped through the prenup. Highlighted the infidelity clause. Read it out loud, just for the record. Jessica flinched when she heard it. Final ruling was swift. Jessica was awarded nothing. Not the car. Not the house. Not the savings. Everything defaulted to me, just as outlined in the agreement she insisted on signing when we first got married. It was her idea back then. Just in case, she said. She never thought it would actually be used. Afterward, she followed me out into the hallway. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she said. It was just. I was confused. You weren't home. You were always gone. I kept walking. Can't we just talk? She begged. Please, Ryan, we've been through so much. Doesn't any of it matter? I turned to face her one last time. It mattered, I said. But you didn't. Then I walked out. The days that followed were quiet again. She tried once or twice more an email through her mom's address. I put the house up for sale. Packed up the rest of my things. Moved 2 hours north to a small town near the mountains. Bought a fixer-upper. Quiet street. No memories. Adam never took the $5,000. Said I paid more than enough already. He was right. I didn't just lose a wife. I lost the version of her I believed in. The one I defended when friends warned me she was too flirty. The one I proposed to with shaking hands on that pier in San Diego. That version never existed. I see that now. What I had was a story I told myself. A beautiful illusion wrapped in charm and shared routines. And once I stopped telling it, the truth showed itself. And the truth? It cost me everything I thought I had, but gave me everything I needed to walk away. That's worth more than $5,000. That's worth starting over. Share your thoughts in the comments. Was Adam really helping his friend, or was he feeding his ego? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.